In this video, we're going to talk about programs and procedures. Information is of central importance in today's world. We have different types of data in the world nowadays. We have emails, a contact number, a banking transaction, time, websites, and a lot more. Computers make it possible to process vast quantity of information with ease. So we'll give an input to the computer. Maybe it's an input of a keyboard or input of a mouse click. Maybe you want to give some information, for example, process the image or edit the image. So basically you give information to a computer, it processes it and outputs the result. Learn to create your own programs and take advantage of this powerful resource. We have components in a computer like processor, RAM, a motherboard. We have a program which is compiled and computer understands that. We're going to need an IDE to write those programs. One important fact about computers are they are unintelligent. Start by understanding a little about computers' components. So in components, we have processor, we have a memory, we have storage, we have input devices like keyboard, mouse, a microphone, we have output devices like monitor, printer, or even the terminal on your Mac or command prompt on your Windows computer, which outputs the result when you write a Python code. Actions are performed by Central Processing Unit, which is CPU. It can perform very simple operations like adding numbers, checking values, but the good thing about this, it can perform millions of computation per second, and it is responsible of transferring inputs into outputs. CPU stores information and data in the memory. There are some key points that we need to know about RAM. The first, instruction and data are used by CPU, and all the data in the memory is lost when the power is turned off. For example, when you're writing a code or writing anything, you don't save it. Your computer gets turned off, and when you open the computer again and restart it, that data is not there because that data was sitting in the memory, not in a storage device which stores the data permanently. So storing the data permanently needs another storage devices. For example, we have a hard disk, we have CD drives, we have USB flash drives. We can use these devices to store data permanently. Well, data can be permanently stored, and also it is organized into files and folders. Input devices turns user action into data for computer to use. For example, we have a mouse and we have a keyboard. Now, when you click on the mouse left button, it detects where your cursor exists on the screen. And under that cursor, if there is any click event or any instruction to the computer to perform any action, computer will go and perform that action. Similarly, when you type on a keyboard, every key represents some action. If I type A key on a keyboard, it will type A key on the screen. So we have output devices. Once your data is processed, you get to see an output. We have different kinds of output devices for the commonly used or monitors, a terminal, or even graphical programs. When you type something, you see a text on the screen. When you play a music on your computer, you get to hear a sound. These components are consistent for many different kinds of computers. We have computers, tablets, desktop computers, laptops, mobile phones, medical equipment, robots, and even vehicles. So we already talked about computers are not intelligent, and all of these components of computers are not intelligent as well. CPU, which only task is to run instruction. RAM and storage are only tasks to store data. Keyboard, mouse, and other input devices are only tasked to give input to the computer. We have monitors, which only shows the output. Now, computers are unintelligent, but what makes them intelligent? Well, our code makes computer intelligent, or you can call it smart. Software drives computers, providing the intelligence for tasks at hand. We have CPUs, which only task is to process instruction. Then we give programs to drive computers. We write our own programs. Program provide sequence of instruction that run on the CPU. For example, you want to write a program which opens up a window, draw the form, get the user input, perform some calculation, and output answers. Well, instruction can only be in machine code. Computer is not going to understand if you just write that in English, like open a window, draw a form, get input. So machine code is only consists of 1 and 0. You can convert your source code into machine code using compiler. So a source code can be in simple English using a language syntax. Here we have a print hello world, which basically is a human readable, but it cannot be run by a computer. We need to give computer zeros and ones. So what happens when you write print hello world, which is a human readable, it goes to the compiler, and compiler, depending on the programming language you're using, it will compile that into zeros and one language, and then it will give that to computer to perform that action. So we need to learn program language syntax to turn our ideas into code which the compiler understands. Remember, the computer is unintelligent. You need to tell it everything. Because computer is intelligent, your code needs to follow the language syntax exactly. These are the rules. Before we do some coding, we need to understand some code terminology. It's really basic, so let's talk about statement. A statement is a programming term for an action or instruction in your code. Statements can be found in procedures and programs. A procedure call is a statement itself. So here is a diagram. A statement is an instruction command to perform an action. It goes to CPU to commands the computer to perform some action. Each kind of statement performs a certain action. There are few different kinds of statements to choose from in programming languages. So we can understand statements later while we do some code. Let's go to the next. We have expression. Expression is a part of a statement that calculates a value. For example, the value you pass into a procedure call are all expressions. Expressions related to term mathematical expression. In the diagram, you can see we have a 7 multiplied by 10 plus 3. Now this is an expression. So we talk about expression in details when we actually go and type some expressions. Next terminology we're going to talk about is identifiers. Identifiers are used to name and refer to artifacts. Artifacts have names. For example, when you define a memory location or you store a data into a location of a memory, you need to give identifier for that, which basically will tell the computer where that information is sitting in the RAM. Here we have an identifier is basically a name of memory location or name of something. We have keywords which we'll take a look at now. So keywords are special identifiers that have special meanings for the programming language. In Python, for example, we have an import which basically have a special meanings, and it tells the programming language that I want to import that class or I want to import that module. A class is a keyword which helps us to define a class. Def in Python means that we are defining a function, or different programming languages have a different keywords. The main key point about keywords is you cannot use keywords as the name of your own artifacts. They are taken for programming language. Keywords will be highlighted as a special color by your text editor. So if you are using a special IDE which has a support for your programming language, that will highlight your codes, especially the keywords.